In Donald Trump's remarks at the NABJ conference, his comments on Sonya Massey and police immunity reveal a troubling perspective that seems to sidestep the real issues at the heart of police accountability. When questioned about Sonya Massey, Trump attempted to highlight a singular case without addressing the broader systemic problems within policing. His focus on individual incidents, rather than acknowledging the deep-seated issues related to police immunity, demonstrates a lack of understanding, or perhaps a willful ignorance, of the widespread calls for justice and reform that have echoed across the nation.
Yes,
Mr. President, can I ask you another question that is also impacting Black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonya Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed Black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again, why would...
They're going to be charging the officer. I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Trump's stance on police immunity is equally concerning, as it suggests a reluctance to hold law enforcement accountable for their actions. This approach not only undermines public trust, but also perpetuates a cycle of unaccountability that disproportionately affects communities of color. Instead of offering solutions or even engaging in a meaningful dialogue on the matter, Trump's comments seem to deflect from the pressing need for reform, leaving many to question his commitment to addressing the critical issues of police violence and systemic racism.
So, can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those distinctions?
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine an innocent mistake?
You go after somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous. And you know, they have... The policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two people that have weaponized our justice system. I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case. That was the most difficult case. And I just won it. Now, Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time. And he had 50 years worth of documents, and they ruled that he was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial. And I said, isn't that something? He's incompetent, and he can't stand trial, and yet he can be president. Isn't that nice?
Mr. President,
but they released him on the basis that he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him. I won the case, and it got very little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing any publicity on it, George.
We covered you extensively, sir. I'd love to move over onto different topics.
I didn't notice you do any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent. I have another one where I have a hostile judge.
We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different topics.
No, excuse you. You're the one that held me up at 35 minutes.
Trump's comments highlight a significant disconnect between his rhetoric and the urgent need for reform. It's clear that addressing systemic issues within policing requires more than just words. It demands real action and accountability. As we continue to push for justice and equity, it's crucial to remain vigilant and critical of leaders who choose to sidestep the hard conversations. Stay tuned to Black Discoveries for more in-depth analysis and discussions on the issues that matter most to our community. Thanks for watching.